And we are live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our 11th, I think this is our 11th broadcast of SVT time. As always, my name is Dino Minoxidus. With me is my ever faithful co-host, Dom Liberati, who's always here with us, except for one episode. You weren't here. You were honeymooning somewhere.
Yeah, just, no big deal.
And today's very special guest, we have Mr. Rex Brown. Doesn't need any more than that. Rex,
Hello.
welcome, man.
How
are you?
I'm good.
We're doing good, man. How's everything? You look like you're relaxed and calm and cool and in a really nice area.
It's a beautiful day. It's a little crisp out here at the ranch in New Mexico, but it's I've been hunkering down and staying in, and writing it. It's when I have gone out, it's been did a little trip to Nashville and building one of my favorite bases of all time with a company that starts with a G, and there'll be a big announcement here in a few weeks. And we've been working on this for like 10, 11 months and still going over for specifics for it. But these are bad mofos, man.
Nice.
Yeah, and I've been doing some studio work with a buddy of mine, and it's so weird going to the studio and having to wear a mask, when you're playing a track. It is just really insane. Other than that, man, just trying to stay in and not catch this forbidden damn disease,
Yeah. No,
so,
I know.
We just all got to stay safe in this until we can get vaccine and get on with our lives, but it's going to take a while. So let's make the best of it. Right.
Yeah. You're keeping busy through all this. You're not sitting still. You're moving ahead and doing everything you can.
Yeah. I sat still for a little bit just because, all the precautions and warnings and not knowing what was going on. This state has been locked down 3 times, officially 4. And so we've only had just a little over 3,000 deaths in the whole state in almost a year. So that's pretty amazing and it's supposed to be there's so many native Indians that have pretty much in New Mexico, half of it is owned by the Indians, which is like the freaking wild West out here, But anyway, they become very, very. This disease has really crippled them. They're out on subsidy land, and it's just been horrible to see that. But we've been very lucky that we have a really good governor, and in fact, the mayor is one of my really good friends. We go skiing all the time, which is kind of cool.
Awesome.
We went 2 weeks before the 2 weeks before the lockdown went in place in March. So,
man,
so when you're
staying active.
Nice. Wanted to go back to, because you mentioned a secret project. When you're working on that secret project, is your mindset like, do you stay up at night like, oh my gosh, this is like got my name on it, I got to like pick the right thing for like every spec?
It's pretty prestigious. It's one of those things they haven't given to a bass player hardly ever, except for, back in the 60s, there was a Jack Cassidy model, and there was a Woody from the Allman Brothers Government Mule. And that's just been about the only 2 signatures that they have. But mine's a whole collection of, 2 USA models and then 2 starts with the E word. And they're really, really cool, like harken back to 65 and some of those. It's all about the detail, If we're gonna do it right, and it's just I've been to Nashville twice. In fact, I was just there in December, and I mean everything was just max. I got my nose swabbed 7 times in 11 days. That shows you how many times we were tested. Just going into the facilities, and and shot a big shoot for those guys, and 3.5 hour long shoot with 11 cameras. It was crazy, man. Really, really cool. So a lot of good
Was that
stuff
ever
happening.
was that ever a goal of yours, like growing up playing? Did you ever, I mean, everybody dreams of, either being on Bass Player Magazine,
especially
something
with
like that.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
this is the dream of all. This is like the big time. This is the one that when I go into a studio, that bass is always sitting there. I've got a 71, and this is one they precisely mimicked. It was its foundations were sitting in a case. I got it in Germany in about I can't remember when I got it, but it was just the body. There was nothing on it but the body, and it had a used sign on the very back of it, which was probably a second, and I was doing a project down at Willie Nelson's place, doing some songs for some soundtrack work and stuff like that. And I always wanted to record on Analysis. It's just, it's Willie's spot where he did all those fucking killer records,
Yep.
And Terry Date was producing it. And so I had a check. He goes, man, we got to fix this thing up. It's just sitting there collecting dust. What do you want to do with it? I said, here's $500, put some parts in it. We have plenty of pickups, whatever you want to do. And he just astounded me with this thing. I wish I had it sitting there. I'd show it to you, but I really can't right this moment.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
They would probably shite themselves.
No, that's like I said, you don't want to open a Christmas present before Christmas. So
Not yet, man. But it's burning a hole in my wallet.
You had mentioned Willie Nelson's place, so you're doing other projects outside of outside of rock.
I always have.
Yeah.
It's I did. After Dom got murdered, instead of going to some place like freaking Wyoming or somewhere and to get my head together, I had to keep working. And I had a friend that a guy that did Down to Warren Riker had moved out to California, and so I drugged the family out there, and I just used a different name, and I played on probably 50 records, at Ocean Way, Studio D. That was our favorite room to work, and so I've always kept busy. And then Down, came right after that, and did that for another 6 years, and then I did Kill Devil Hill, and finally about the end of that, I was going. I've been doing this on the road for damn near 30 years, and I was just burnt. I mean, like, no description of. I got to get home and what does the grass feel like underneath your toes? My kids were I got twins. Kids were about 14. I just said, man, I've got to just take 2 years off. I'll be damned, it wasn't 8 months later, I was back in the studio somewhere. That's just always been my deal. And I just, since then, I haven't been back on the road except for one European tour in 2017. But I miss the camaraderie of playing with guys in a room and jamming. I do plenty of that. But I don't miss all the grinding 22 hours of the day, sitting around wondering what the fridge what you're gonna eat. I don't miss that at all. So I think I've done my time in hell, and we've got some things in the coffer that are looking good. As soon as this thing will open up, it's about safety for everyone. So for me, it is. I don't want to get anybody sick, and these super shredder things, I definitely don't want to have any part of. So that's just where I am right now. I definitely want to tour on this next record out in June. So.
But when you say tour, obviously not. I would
select dates.
Yeah, I mean, you're at a point in your career and a point in your life where you don't have to grind. I shouldn't say you don't have to, but you know what I mean. You can be more selective on how you're going to work and where you're going to work, and and how you're going to travel.
I've been asked to do that even over this kind of Zoom thing, and I just don't want to do. I think that's just so bland. I think this is great for our situation if we're having a conversation. Trying to get across on a screen with 4 guys and masks sitting, No, to me, it looks like a hanky howdy doody show. There you go. I'll put it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been doing any recording at home?
No, I've got a buddy that's got a studio up the street, and that's what I was talking about with the mask on. You know, I just go to his place, and I record everything on a phone. You know, and I pretty much know what I want to do when I go into a studio. Bounce off other people with what notes they're hitting, and then, you know, I'll have it mapped out pretty much, you know, and bounce off the producer. Sometimes, you know, lately I've been letting the studio be the palette. Sometimes you can get great sounds off of whatever you're spitting out. You know, I had a whole bunch of songs that I'd forgotten about because I couldn't use them in any other bands that I was playing in with all this metal stuff. And that was half the reason too that I wanted to get away from that, because I just felt pigeonholed as not only as a musician, but, you know, as a, let's just say as a musician, you know, you get in that corner. Oh, there's that guy that played bass in Pantera. Well, I want to do more than just that. You know, there's much more to my musical taste and palette than just playing bass. But that's all that's really what I'm good at. I mean, you know, that's my forte. But at the same time, I play rhythm guitar just as well. So there you have it. But that took a lot. That took quite some time to get those chops back. Also, you know, because I hadn't done it probably 20 years. You know.
That being said, do you, like, when you go into the studio, do you have like certain gear that you have to bring in that you really want to bring in? Or is it kind of different each session, or do you just rely on, like, this is me, I got my instrument, and then
it's got to be, you know, it starts with I still use my Spectre basses, man. They sound great in the studio. They're well rounded. They've cut through mixes. We just found a big I've moved during this little thing. I moved all my stuff to Nashville. You know, that's where everybody that kind of was cool on the West Coast and the East Coast, everybody just kind of moved to Nashville. And about 2015, I moved all my stuff out of LA, moved all my stuff out of Texas. Now we have to get a bigger storage lockup, you know, and this place is like, you know, 20 by 20, and it's just ram full. And that's why I have these, you know, these reverb cells, because I've just got so much shit, you know, I just got to quit buying. So, it's what was that question leading to? I got sidetracked.
I was just wondering, like, if you had like go-to gear that you made sure you always had on you.
We found this case of Spectre basses that had, like, I was looking for this thing forever, and it probably had about 6 or 7 in there, of like my fretlesses that I hadn't seen in a while, and I was going, I wonder where those are. Are they still left in the, you know, we had lockups everywhere, especially I had lockups for all the Pantera stuff, and that's been 19, 20 years ago. It's usually just a Spectre, a Sans Amp driver, and then straight into an Ampeg, you know. And then we cut it off between the DI and then usually, and then sometimes I'll use, you know, what my ideal situation is, a real clean, like, SVT2 sound, and then I'll use a SVT4 on, you know, so I can get a bit of dirt, you know, just so we can have that for a little bit of warmth. But that's basically it, you know.
That's awesome.
I also have a plug-in too that's been coming in kind of handy. I never thought of using it, since it's, you know, I usually just use the gear, but it's from Tone Forge, the Rex Brown thing, and it's gotten really, really great reviews. Kids seem to love it. So we tried it out in this last session I did a couple weeks ago, and it worked out pretty well.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. That's awesome.
Is it's a plug-in? It's like a
plug-in, and it's kind of I think they checked with you guys about administration, about it has the amp, you know, but then it has a DI, and then it has a pedal that fully parametric. I mean, just a full blown. It's a full bundle, you know. Different mics, different cabs, different all kinds of different ways. You can get anywhere from, like, playing, from honky tonk blues to full blown distorted, to the extreme. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
it's really cool. Pretty cool.
That
That's
is,
awesome. That's really
Hey,
cool.
we actually, it's funny because we have gotten a couple of inquiries about your rigs and your sound and your tone. And obviously it's, as we know, from most of your career, it's revolved around Ampeg. But a couple of people were asking, like, what settings do you use on your CL?
I like it kind of flat, but I do, the middle selection, it's got 1 through 5.
Yep.
It goes 125, 280. I can't remember what 350, then up into the 600s, I believe.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Or am I? So I usually hit that right about 3,
Okay.
and then I'll push a little bit of mid.
Yep.
The bass is usually about 2 treble, ultra high and ultra low on both. Just because with the way that those work with that SVT4, I just like the way it sounds. I think it's got that, and you can always back it down at the guitar. Certainly I have to. I've got to turn that volume back to because I attack so hard. If not, you're just going to come out with a really distorted signal. But for as back in the day with the live stuff, I would just slave everything through, one head into another head into another head to each individual cabinets around the stage. And I had a bunch of them, man. I still got all those freaking cabs that Doc Raiden made me back in the day.
Yeah.
Those PRs, I think you only made them 1 year. And I think I took every damn one of them. Yeah. Like 6 810s and 6 810s and 6 412s or 410s.
Wow.
It was, and they were all except for the 410s were blazing live.
Yeah. I remember asking you the first time I met you at a damn show. I was like, dude, was that whole rig was live? And I remember you. It's like, oh my God.
I had to go to a ear specialist, and they did the number of what I get it checked like every 2 or 3 years, and
sure.
I've lost like 30% in this right ear just because of the, you have to remember also those cabinets were right behind me blowing 40 feet. And then I had 4 18s, 2 15s, and 2 big horns, or I can't remember what was in the middle. But it was a full PA by itself on this side. And I used to turn it up so loud just because I didn't want the other guys coming on the side of the stage. So on my side of the stage. So there you go.
Well, and if I was gonna say, if you're to your right ear,
that's my secret. Turn it up.
That's the drummer side too. Right ear, or your right ear would be the hi-hat too, right? Or cymbals.
I was on stage left, so
your stage left. Okay.
It would. I thought for sure it'd be my left ear, but my left ear is only lost just a little bit. This is the only good ear I got left.
And we'll
see if we can fuck that one up,
And that was before in-ears, kids.
Yeah, and I really like. I didn't want to like in-ears, but I use them all the time. I really dig them.
Do you still feel like
so weird from an old timer like me, but it's you can really get a great sound out of those if you got somebody who knows how to work them.
Do you always use at least a little bit of a cab by you when you're using in-ears, just to kind of get that like a little bit of rumble going, or are you?
Yeah. Well, I'll pretty much let her run. Pretty. I mean, it's not full wide open like it used to be back in the day, because it's not needed in the situation I'm in now, where it's just solo guy. I'm playing a lot of guitar and bass on just a couple of songs. That might change here. When I went into rehearsals when we did that first record, it just seemed weird when you're singing and trying to do that. It's so much easier when you're strumming a guitar. With the bass, every note has to be so precise. You got to be locked in with the drummer. It was too much to think about. It was like dragging a ball and chain. So there's a way you can twist it out of your mind where you could play bass and sing at the same time. It just depends on the song and everything else.
Yeah.
So playing rhythm guitars, I mean, it's just pretty simple. You know, you just know the chords and get through it. And but this next one, I have no idea how we're going to do it live.
The next album.
Yeah, it's just got a bunch of keys on it, and really cool parts, and it's got a whole bunch of acoustic stuff on it too. So I'm going to have a utility guy.
Yeah,
but man, there's a million killer cats out in Nashville just looking for a gig.
Yep.
A million great players out there.
So on Smoke on This, you played guitar and bass on the record.
I laid down the bass the very, you know, when we got the drum tracks, and I went back and I think I overdubbed one song. Everything else was on the fly.
Okay.
And what's so weird is I'd never played with this drummer before, and we hit it off right off the shoot. Like if we didn't get the take, you know, it wasn't what I was wanting. We nailed it on that second one. That's how good he was.
Wow.
Okay.
You know, I hate overdubbing basses, but I will, you know, if I have to, if we're looking for a different tone or something like that. But usually the first thing that happens is is that I'll lay a scratch down, you know, the scratch bass down, and 9 times out of 10, that one's the one that works. It just, you know,
it's instinctual. I like that. Yeah.
It's like playing, you know, the back of your hand, like riding a bike, you know, you're not really going to fall off that thing.
Yeah.
Unless you're really, it's, you know, the action's too high, or, you know, the seat's too high. There you go. Same thing.
Yeah. I love that you are insistent on, like, especially with drum and bass in a track, having that be live and be organic together. And it really makes all the world of difference.
You know, it's these days, everybody's on these tracks and they're, you know, everybody's playing to a click and playing to, nobody's in the room anymore.
Yeah.
And it takes away the human feel, you know, depending on what genre you're kind of talking about. But the stuff that I'm doing, I've got to hear that, you know, I want to hear the room. I'd much rather hear the room than I would, you know, the room sound of a compressed mic than I would more than a lick. You know, when a drummer's sitting there playing and it's just slamming and the bass is stumbling around with him, you can tell when that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Instead of coming back and overdubbing and you're just playing to air, you know, you don't want to, what I mean, or playing to like a dead, a dead beat. I'll put it like that.
Yeah.
You know? So, I really like, you know, cutting the bass and the drums, especially. I kind of love that.
Yeah.
That's what we did. You know, that's what we did forever. You know, now times have changed where everything's plug-in, and you just, you know, all these guys are making these records that are just plug-ins and doing it straight out of the box. And even though I use the box and that like I'm saying, that palette kind of come in, you still, even some little bitty pick scratches or stuff like that, I leave all that stuff in, man. You know, it just has to be there. It's human, you know?
Yeah.
So that's,
I feel like that's
just rock and roll, man. You know, that's just my interpretation of it. So, you know, I'm sure there'd be another little, you know, handful of guys going, "You're wrong," but that's just the way I do it.
No, I mean, it's funny. Like the one tune that always comes back to me is "Soul Man" by Sam and Dave and Duck Dunn, right? And the original recording, there's 3 verses and then it goes to the B section.
Right.
Duck actually plays it. You can hear it in his line. He sounds like he's going to play a 4th verse, and no, it's the B section. Yeah. And they let it in the recording, but it is so organic that it's like, you know, like you said, it's human beings interacting with one another and being captured at a point in time.
Exactly. I mean, that's those classic flubs like that are historic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Little things like that we pick up because that's what our brain is trying to tell us anyway through music. Right. You know, hey, this guy might have stumbled, they left it on the tape. That's pretty cool. You know, but then again, it was Duck Dunn of all people. You know, Booker T and the MGs, man. I mean, you know.
But you know what? it's like that's getting back to that one. It's like those things. Even if you want to call it a mistake like that, but something like that definitely doesn't outweigh the actual recording itself, because the recording itself, because it was probably done in 1 or 2 takes, is so powerful.
Yeah.
Right.
If they had gone back and retook that same thing, I'm sure we've all been there. The more you do a take on something, the more it just starts to lose its vibe.
Yeah.
Before you know, it's just like, let's just revisit this tomorrow, guys, because it's not happening anymore.
Yes.
Well,
that's why
that's the whole
demoitis
thing.
exists.
Exactly. You get the demoitis, and I mean that was especially our first record, Cowboys from Hell. We recorded that thing 3 different times, and it got better every time. But it was at a certain point you just kind of go, that's enough. Overdubbing these days is totally different because it's right on the money. Back then with tape, you would still hear that tail, when you punched in. So, like Terry used to get me when I'd go like say I hit an E on the 12th fret. I would always kind of come, I'd always kind of come up right before it with a slur up to the 12th instead of slurring down. So it made this little cross intersection, and if you listen back to some of the bass tracks, if you can hear them, which is hard enough, with that behind that massive snare drum and that guitar sound, you can hear those. If there was a punch, it was always that woo. That was my little trick. We just ran upon that. Sometimes we'd even like slow the tape down to make it kind of do it. And anyway, when we were bored shitless or stone shitless,
That's a great little transition element. I feel like people would want to sample that and like use that in tracks now.
Oh, dude, I could make that all day long. Just make a loop of them,
And there's probably kids that were trying to transcribe that or learn that part going, how the hell did he do that? Now
It's not that apparent. That was just a little secret that out of the bag, but it wasn't something that we tried to go for. I think it only happened maybe 2 or 3 times during our recording, but I'd always try to hit up or down, because on the original tape, you got to remember it's going at so many milliseconds per, it can only catch up as quick as you hit that record button. By the time you hit that little button, there's a little bit of time. So you have to hit it right on that one. And so your finger has to hit it almost a millisecond before it, for it to be precise. Or you would take the tape and then slice it and then put it back together where everything hit on one. But anybody that knew how to punch back in those days were pretty proficient at, Vinnie was really good at that. He was master. Oh yeah, he was the king of punch ins.
Really?
Him and his brother worked side by side in that. Yeah, Vinnie was a really good engineer.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that. That's wow, pretty cool.
His dad was an engineer. That's why we had, his dad was an engineer at the studio, and that's really the reason I ended up being with those guys.
Okay. I got a question here from Instagram from Willie Bassman. It says, one for Rex. Your bass tone on Reinventing the Steel is and always has been my favorite recorded bass tone. It's just crushing. Can you remember how that tone was created and what amps, pedals, et cetera, did you use to get it? Thanks.
Just what we talked about. I think with that record, we had a clean channel, but I was still using the 4, so I had probably took the gain off of it a little. And then I had a YB box, I know that for sure. Then I had my Sans amp, which it's got a little boost, or they call it drive on there. And I would usually set that about halfway, but the way I hit a down pick, when I play, even though some of that records were done with my fingers, just had a really good clean sound out of that. And we were also using different, I think we had moved to an Otari digital machine for the 2-inch tape. So all the bass and drums were cut to 2-inch, still even in 2001. And then it all changed, and hence we have all this hiss
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
digital hiss mess. And it's getting better, but around that time, when everything changed to this in and out, with the plugins, the de-essers, you would have to use those extremely hard with some of that stuff, and the guys that weren't, it sounded like crap from 2000 until 2006 or 7,
Yeah.
unless you're recording on tape, which few guys were.
Yeah. So you definitely saw a change in the recording process at that time. Then you think?
Well, yeah. Overall, yes.
Yeah.
For me, it was always pretty much the same setup. Always like to run a dry and a clean cab and a dirty cab, just mix those two together. And then we would have the DI, and seldom I don't like the sound of a DI. I just don't, not for that style of music. It's just too, but it's good for the underbelly. Like, we used to cut the high pass filter, off the DI, so you couldn't hear any of that click from the pick attack. And so you'd have a real good low end, solid sound. And I think that we stride on that because we really produced that record ourselves. We didn't have Terry Date in there or anything else. And a lot of producers like to use that DI all the freaking time. Just go, it's so consistent, but it sounds, it's just like a cardboard box to me. It really does. You can put it through any board. I just don't like the way it sounds. And that's why I like the little Sans amp that has boost on it. You get a little bit of warmth out of it,
Sure. Sure.
And still a semi-parametric vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's face it, that thing has been an industry standard for a long time, so
yeah.
I think every bass player on the planet has one, or has used one, or has played through one, or has experience with one.
Everybody used to ask if I used it. I'm reading the thing down here, approach distortion, amp and pedal. I never used any kind of pedals in front of my chain. There was, I think there's been talk in a couple of blog things that I used some I can't remember, the heavy metal bass driver or something. I never used that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just from the the amps being really cranked up and the way I attack some stuff. So no, I never used anything in line with any of that.
Okay.
What I love is that
I did play through, like, we would go back and overdub like the bass through Dime's rack, or we would use 412 with a 100-watt head of some sort, to kind of get that different sound, but that was few and far between.
Yeah.
What I love is that you were describing, I think either your CL tone earlier or your SVT4 Pro tone, and it's pretty close to flat. And a lot of responses we've gotten from artists are that that they have most of their SVT settings, for the most part, mostly flat, and then ultra high and ultra low to taste and everything. But it's cool because it just shows how like a tube amp picks out the nuances of each player.
Oh, especially those tubes.
Yeah. All these different players can basically, you have such a unique tone, and other artists have such a unique tone to themselves.
And the thing with that, I didn't mean to cut you off. The thing with the Ampeg is that you got to remember, you guys are running those speakers in parallel. So, one's pushing while the other's giving. You know what I'm saying? The old Billy Sheehan theory. So by the time you hit the note, it's still trying to figure out how it's going to burst out of there, even though it's just a millisecond.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, you have to play it just a little bit on top of the beat. It's not something that I sat there and just really just didn't lose sleep over or anything. But it's one of those things where, those amps with the style of music that I was playing then was, you really had to be on top of your game when you were recording. Everything had to just be just pretty damn clinical. That was the sound of the band and the sound of the three of us. And then when we opened up on different songs, it would, it was back to normal. But some of that real tight chugging and stuff like that, that was that was a lot of fun. That's half the reason I started playing metal in the first place, because I was really, my lineage tells me that I shouldn't have done that. My mother and father were, pipe swing band music until I was 17. Dad died when I was young, but Mom loved all that Tommy Dorsey and the Andrews Sisters and all that kind of stuff. And then my grandmother played silent piano, played piano for the silent movies back in the early 20s.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And so, for me to go, and then of course Vinnie and I started playing jazz with this really very, very, very. Hang on one second. We got a plane overhead.
Yeah.
No problem.
No, it's one of the best lab bands in the country at a high school level, and I actually was being recruited for North Texas State, and I had either I join Pantera or I do this, take this, and I would, then I would have been a professor, and no thanks. I think I made the right call.
You would, I was going to say you would have been into the 1 o'clock band, and before you know it, yeah.
Well,
at the same time, though,
I would have loved to have you now. The old Pancras is different now, but that's that's the scars you have to. It's only rock and roll, boys.
That's it.
Amazing. I wanted to point out. Sorry, I wanted to put out. Somebody had commented that they couldn't get an SVT2 in their country, so they actually looked at the schematics in honor of you and Jason Newstead. They they tried wiring one up themselves and liked the challenge of making an amp. That's quite an amp to make.
That is, but
that's very dangerous, boys. Y'all are dealing with a lot of currency there. Current, not currency. Be careful when you're opening those amps up with those tubes, man. Those Ampegs are the most. There's so much vacuum inside of those things, man. That's why they're Ampegs. I mean, they're just, I'm very flattered. At the same time, be careful, man.
Yeah. There's enough. So they say those caps will store up to 10,000 volts. So if you're not careful, there's enough voltage in there to stop a heart if you're screwing around. Yeah.
You hit the wrong lead, you're screwed. I never let one of my techs or me get behind one of those Ampegs, because man, you're just dealing with too much voltage there. It's just too much current going. And so you guys always had somebody that came out on the road, or you'd fly somebody in. It was always superb. And we fixed whatever we needed to fix. But then again, I think that only happened once, maybe, twice.
Yeah. I mean, they're, like we tell everybody, they're tube amps. And nowadays, tubes are kind of, they're getting harder and harder to come by. Manufacturers and reliable sources for tubes are being tougher and tougher to come across. And, who knows? I hope not in my lifetime or my kids' lifetime we'll see tube amps go away. I don't think we'll ever see it in our lifetimes. But
I hope not. But then again, I've got enough to keep me for the rest of my life. I'm good to go.
Here you go.
That's probably half the bands here in Albuquerque. So
right.
There you have it.
Hey, Max from France wanted to know, in terms of bass tone, what is the song you recorded and you are most proud of?
Oh, I couldn't answer that question. I think all of them are.
Okay.
When you're recording a record, all of them serve a purpose. That's a really tough one.
Yeah.
Most proud of the one I hadn't recorded yet.
There you go. Good answer. There you go, Max.
I guess on the flip side of that is, do you ever listen back and knowing the player you are now, wish you would have played something differently or had a different vibe? Or do you listen to it and go, that's who I was then, and I'm glad that got captured?
Well, we wrote everything in the studio. So the cool thing was that we were going on the road for 16 months afterward, and then, you know, the songs you would hear different little things, and you know, you'd want to change it up every night just so you wouldn't get bored. You know? The listener probably didn't. It probably went over their heads, but for me, it was never the structure of a song. It was always about maybe putting in a harmonic here, or you know, something that I think that This Love, I used to use a lot of harmonics live that I didn't put on the recording, and but at the same time, I don't think that in the studio, I think it served its purpose a lot better than what I was probably doing live towards the end after we had played that song 1,000 times. You know what I'm saying? It was just for my satisfaction, something new, and you know, so no, I wouldn't change anything.
Okay, all right.
If you did that, you have to change everything. You know, and that's just preserving time. So it's done well for me.
Yeah, and that's like you say. You know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, recordings are snapshots of where you were at a certain point in time. Totally. You know, and who you're recording with. You know, whether it's 4 guys in the studio or you're just putting tracks down in your own. You know, I go back and listen to stuff I recorded months ago and go, yeah, or oh, that's not too bad. You know, and you build on it. So,
that's the one thing that drives me crazy. I've been sitting on this record for a year and a half. You know, that I'm put in June, and I'm just going, God, I can do that so much better. You know, and I'll call my producer, and he's like, nope, we're not doing it. You know, nobody else has heard this except for us and except for a few of your friends, and they all love it, and you're out of your freaking mind, and it is what it is, and that's just the way it is.
But that points back to what you said.
Which is nice having honest people that just don't say, yes, Rex, let's fix that, you know, and you know.
It also points back to what you said earlier about at some point you just got to get it out because you can truly always tweak it, and there's always a change you can make.
Dude, it's just
never technically done.
Yeah, and he and I are both from the same kind of boat of, you know, old school kind of recording. Once you got it on tape, you know it's solid. You know it's going to be there for the rest of the time. If whatever, you know, even if one person buys it or 10 million, you know, those notes are still going to be there. It's just, you know, that's just how it is, you know.
Yeah. Do you
get lucky? You don't.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any aspirations to go into producing other people? Because obviously, with the years you've been in the studio, you're savvy to how studios work, and
yeah, I mean, it's something I want to do later down the road. You know, right now I'm still into trying to get this solo career kind of still rebooted. You know, with the first record, I was like, well, you know, if I take this thing on the road for 245 dates for a year, you know, there's not enough songs on there. I'd have to do a bunch of covers, and I was not going to do a bunch of covers. And of course, everybody would want, you know, they come to hear a Pantera song anyway. And this is so, you know, it's been 19 years removed since we played our last note together, you know, or more. And so as we evolve as humans, of course, our musical styles change a little. Mine have changed quite drastically compared to what I'm putting out compared to then. But it still has a swagger. It still has the, you know, for me, I think it still has the swagger and still has the, it's just a different way of looking at it, you know? For me, I'm so much happier not having to be that guy anymore. You know, and not that I didn't like that. It's just like, you know, that was him then. This is me now. You know, it's like the mobile phone. You know, this thing used to be the size of a Kleenex box. You know, everything evolves, and so that's just the way I kind of look at everything.
Yeah. No, that's, you know, and that's.
I've always played music for myself anyway. You know what I'm saying? You know, and it just happened that we just hit a huge amount of fans that still do every year, and it's just, you there's no regrets whatsoever. I did what I accomplished with that. I've still got a lot to accomplish for my own. I'm still a healthy young man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I was when we went online, I was like, man, you're looking healthy, you're looking refreshed. Seriously, you look a lot better than I do. I'm freezing my ass off here.
We have gotten some requests on, most people are requesting different products, but we have a few people requesting you to bring your beard back, Dino.
My beard back?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, the beard was it. At least get your Fu Manchu going or something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, I just shaved it again this morning, so it's going to be a few weeks before it comes back. Wow, it's amazing how many people are interested in my beard.
Isn't that weird? Like, oh my God, he's wearing a cowboy hat.
I'm my hat off.
Who cares, man? I got plenty of hair left.
Oh man!
Actually, I love that cowboy hat. I need to up my game. Get some cowboy hats out here.
I always loved your live tone. What's your favorite bass that sounds best through your rig? And do you use the same settings for different basses? A two-part question.
It depends on pretty much all those basses are going to the same electronics. So when I do change, say, a pickup, that pickup will go in all the different basses. Every different guitar, every single guitar is going to sound different. You can get them really, really close just by either, moving a little position, that I'll usually have set in the markers on the guitar itself. One's a little hotter, you got to back it down. Do I have a favorite guitar? Man, I've got so many goddamn basses, it's ridiculous. And it also whatever the song dictates, what sound does it need? That's the way I kind of look at it. So
that answers it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we finally get back around to touring and getting out on the road and doing some dates, will you be playing bass or will you be playing guitar again?
Both.
Okay.
Both. There's a lot of there's a lot of syncopation with the vocals and the guitar. In fact, I recorded this strumming guitar while I was singing, which is kind of cool. Yep. That way it felt kind of normal. So as this solo thing just keeps getting bigger and bigger, I've got all kind of different players on this one that I didn't use on the first one. Some a lot less than I used on the first one. And so it's, like I said, I've been sitting on this thing. I'm just waiting for it to come out, but it's a really introspective record and a lot of songs, like I said, that had been sitting around for a long time that we just made into these killers, so we'll see what happens. Yeah. But it's time for another really, really hard rock record from me, and that's what's going to happen at the end of the year. I've got a whole gang of guys that I'm going into, hopefully we could get to the studio at the end of the year with this famed producer that I talked to on the phone when I was in Nashville.
Okay, cool. Well, so just so I have the timeline here, right? When did Smoke on This come out?
2017.
Okay. All right. And when is the new record going to drop?
We're trying to coordinate that with when these new killer basses are going to drop. So I would say we're shooting for NAMM with that. So you might see songs as early as 1st of April.
Okay, cool.
May, something like that. So we'll start seeing songs then. We're not gonna front load this one. We're just gonna let every song is gonna have video, all that kind of stuff. Which is cool. It's so easy these days to just make a video, regardless of what it is, and do every song that way. Because these days it doesn't matter if it's an LP, even though I call them LPs still. Records I call tracks. So any track that comes on, it doesn't matter if it's on an EP or an LP. These days, it's just about putting music out. So that's the way we're going to treat every song.
Yeah.
I would say 80 to 85% of it will everything will have a content to it.
Okay. Cool. Well,
that's what guys need to be doing it these days. I mean, that's just the way I feel. If
I
you're
totally
going to do
agree.
a full record, you
gotta have some visuals.
I think you should do a video for it, just not the hits or whatever you think it is. You should do one for every single one. That way you have enough content that you can turn people on, maybe not with that song, maybe with another one,
Yeah. And a lot of songs that you might not consider, or maybe mass might not consider hits, like those other deep track, so-called deep tracks, it's all subjective, but
those are usually the best.
Those are the best music videos too. It's like they just speak a little bit a little bit more sometimes.
And you never know what the public's going to grab onto. I know for sure that there's going to be a lot of great music coming out. I know that for sure, that this pandemic is just stored inside of people, and the angst and everything else. Even though mine was recorded pre pandemic, I've got enough for at least another record that tracks that we didn't put on this one. I just keep taking them off. I don't know why. I just I've got another one next for another third one, but I've kind of got this new. I've been writing a lot, so I've got this old Aerosmith's kind of vibe rock record that needs to come out of me.
Okay.
So
I love that.
What's your writing process like, Rex? Do you
straight into my phone? The phone goes to separate track and put it to a click. And then just sitting around a table with somebody. It could be acoustic guitar. It could be we're sitting in a room amped up. And then we just turn the riff tape on and have it through everybody's ears. And where do we go from there? I'll usually dictate and this is where it's going here. All you need is a good 5-6 ideas. The song pretty much done, and then you'll have a little spurn off that'll get you the rest of the way there.
Yeah. Do you ever get that, that 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. idea where you wake up in bed? It's like, oh shit, I got to get this down. And then,
all the time. In fact, I'll take my phone, get up out of bed, and I've got a guitar in a mudroom. And because it's so far away from the house and you can shut the doors. And I've done that on many occasions, not only this house, but I've got another house in Texas, and actually for home in Nashville. So
I used to do that. I used to wake up and go, I'll remember it in the morning.
No, you never do.
And
you never do. And you try to recreate what you have in your head. It's like sometimes I'll come up with a freaking symphony, of notes, and that's usually constant. So I just try to get those little parts down, and then I'll, you can edit what the name of the title is or whatever. You just put, take number 1, take number 2, bridge number 2, and then have the date on it.
Yeah. That's cool. So, and now, I've got a couple of apps on my phone as well that, I can play a bass line acoustically, and it'll put a drum beat to it and tell me what the chord changes are. So it's like, it's so easy to get your ideas down. Before, I remember somebody was telling me like they were hanging out with Bryan Adams of all people, and Bryan would. This was before cell phones, recorders. Bryan would, if he had an idea in his head, he would go to a payphone and call his answering machine at home. And see the idea in the answering machine.
Awesome.
I didn't know that. That's crazy. That's cool.
Get the idea down, right? You used to do the same thing?
Back in the, way back. I mean, we didn't have anything else to record on except for the phone, your answering machine. So, if you were out and about and something hit you, and think of all the great Bryan Adams songs, dude. Geez.
Oh my gosh, I know. He should release
and he phoned them in.
Tapes of,
He
should release just a bunch of voicemail snippets.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I would, probably I would hate to go through Bryan Adams' collection of tapes of all the,
ideas.
Oh, by the way, here's my little. You remember those little those mini cassette tapes? You know,
yeah.
like 30 minutes per side. You have to flip them over. You know, here's my record.
Yeah.
Here, Bruce Fairbairn, do something with this. Here's all the songs.
Figure it out. Well, I mean, they're like,
that's the way they did it.
Yeah, that's you know that was the way to do it. But like, think about it, like they're still going through some of Prince's stuff. I mean, Prince had back catalogs. Eddie Van Halen, I guess, has a whole bunch of unrecorded and unreleased stuff that, it's like what we hear, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg on some of this stuff,
And that's the other thing about me getting off the road for a while. I finally had the chance to do some of that, and I should have just built a studio here. I got plenty of room. I'm just not one of those whizzes when it comes to, engaging this or man, I was so good at a 4-track. I mean, that's all I know how to run,
Yeah.
And I've even invested. I've got a shed full of old like 4-tracks, and I think they're coming up with some of these task amps that are pretty cool. Where you do it on a disc, but then you automatically put it into your computer, so you're all set, or on a hard drive.
Mhm.
But man, I'm more about the camaraderie still, feeding off of each other, and here we come back to the human element again.
Yeah.
There's something about getting together, like you said, 4 guys, 3 guys, going into the studio, or even just sitting down at the kitchen table and banging out ideas, and then going into the studio and recording.
That's just old school rock and roll. That's all there is to it. It all starts with the riff tape, and then you figure out which riffs are any good and which one's going to stick with the other one. And that I'm gonna usually have some stuff in, or I would come up with some kind of wild riff, and it would turn into something else, and or Vinnie would have some really cool kit pattern that we would go over, like Primal Concrete Sledge was done on the spur of the moment as we were loading out of the studio. And we said, wait, guys, don't move any of that shit yet. We stumbled upon something right at the very end of it. He was just sitting there practicing. And that became the great vulgar display of power, that whole vibe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Man.
A lot of history.
A lot of history there. You had meant, and this kind of struck me earlier, but forgive me for asking you this, and you can slug me in the jaw when I see you next when I ask you this. But you said how you're friends with the mayor. Do you have any aspirations or plans to go into politics? Because I think you would be a great leader. Okay.
I think that's just, man, that but you remember back in the 70s, Joe Walsh for president, or Willie for president, or all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just, man, I can lead a band, but I can't, I don't know if I'd have the organizational skills to lead a whole town, much less my own, getting out of bed early enough to do it.
I got you.
But it's really cool knowing somebody like that, and knowing, and getting to know them more and more about how all this stuff works, in local government. And that's where you would start, It's crazy. Now we have a secretary of the transportation that was just a mayor, one of the smartest guys on the planet. With this new administration, which I think is really, really great, So, but he had, everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
But no, I have no intention of running for anything. I'm too all over the place with my politics, man.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Like I said, you could still give me a slap in the jaw next time I see you for asking.
Nah, no slap. That's a totally cool question. In fact, that's funny that you asked that. I've thought about that before. Like, well, where would you start though? Really, when you get down to it, it'd be easy enough, but you better know your shit when you get there.
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So, fuck, rock and roll and politics for me just don't mix. It just doesn't work.
And that's the way it should be. I know there's people who agree with that, but I feel the same way. Okay, well, we're just about out of time, but I want to ask you, and this is a theoretical question: living or past, who's the one musician that you haven't worked with or jammed with that you really wish you could have?
Tom Petty. Tom Petty for sure.
Yeah.
That can be quick. So
and Mike Campbell. I mean, I'm a huge Heartbreaker fan.
Yeah.
They just came up with that box set about 6 months ago, and I'm still going through it, just listening to all the home versions and demos and all that kind of stuff. It's just so good, and that was one of my favorite records. Also, I'm a Zeppelin head. I'd love to get inside of Jimmy Page's brain, just for a minute, just to see what he thought. There's so many great ones. Walsh, who I know a little bit, I think Joe's extraordinary. Man, we lost a lot of really key people. Cornell, and was a friend, and and of course Prince, and also Tom. Before this pandemic, and a lot of great ones since. That have passed because of the complications. I think it's the virus killing. I think it's the complications within your body that the virus is killing.
Yeah.
So everybody, just put your mask on, suck up a little bit. We got this far, and that's all we can really do. And keep making music, and see you down the line.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier about some great music coming out of this, and historically, when you look back, it's almost like every great rebirth or like Renaissance, and the actual Renaissance too, is like after a plague or after some war or after, it's like through all this pain, like some beauty comes out of it. And I feel like we're headed in that direction.
Yeah, that's where I was leading. I just think there's going to be some really, really good songs. I mean, it's going to be a lot of competition at the same time. I've heard some really great stuff that's been, that's been put out during this thing. That's just been incredible. It's really weird. I been listening to Jason Isbell in the 400 unit, and I don't know why. I love his music. I don't know why I dig it. I think it's because of the lyrical content, but I've really been digging that kind of like relaxed feeling, and his lyrics are so poignantly just goddamn on the money, just kind of relate to him. It's weird that I just said that. I was listening to a record earlier, but anyway, it's just, like I said, it's everybody has their own musical styles. I just hear something in this guy that I've heard before, but it's still new and fresh to me. Seemingly. And this is going to blow your fans away. The last, this last Taylor Swift record, but the Folklore record, I listened to that record on the first 6 songs, just put it on repeat.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So cool.
So for me, it's all about songwriting. It's not about the genre. It's not about waving this metal cross and, whatever. I'm still that dude. I'm still that guy, but I'm just a bit older, and for me, it's always been about song. And that's the way, the rest of the guys in Pantera were. It's all about the song, and that's all we got. And that's the only thing that for me, songs are universal, in any language, any style, whatever floats your boat,
Yeah. And all these bits and pieces from each genre, they all serve each other. And it's like, that's why, the next metal song could be so cool if it had a sliver of some cool element of a Taylor Swift song, or vice versa or whatever. Yeah.
It just metal doesn't have to be so goddamn complicated. I think that's where a lot of it's come to. I think if you just want something heavy, you don't have to put 18 notes in it where you could just go zhunk, you know, just two
Yeah.
chugs of a downbeat, and that says a million words, you know.
Yeah.
Two notes instead of 18, I'll take any day. You know?
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's cool. That gives me a good insight on, you know, just I think I brought my girls up the same way, listening to, you know, one minute they're listening to Barbara Streisand in the car, and the next minute they're listening to Taylor Swift, and then Bohemian Rhapsody will come on. They know it word for word.
Yeah.
You know,
that's why I always say, you know, when people ask me what I like, I go, you know, I listen to everything from Slayer to Sinatra.
Right.
You know, because I love music. And if you don't know your lineage and all that stuff, I started my kids out the same way. You know, my daughter was, she started playing guitar when she was about 8 or 9. And so, you know, those Crosby record players, you know, the little ones you could take with you, the little travel things they came out with about 10 years ago or less, or I don't know. Anyway, I bought her one of those, but I started her out with the, you know, what my lineage was, because my sister was 17 years older than I was. I got her all the Carole King. I got her the Laurel Canyon thing,
Nice.
and then started giving her, you know, okay, here comes the 70s, you know, gave her all the Crosby, Stills, and of course she's a hippie now, but I've had no problem with that. I've been a hippie my entire life. Anyway, it's cool because she'll turn me on stuff that she'll think I love. You know, she's a huge Tom Petty fan like I am.
Cool.
Because she was raised on it, because it's always around the house and always been listened to. You know, the thing, when you get out off the stage or playing a Pantera set, the last thing you want to do is listen to something goddamn heavy. You know, that's the furthest thing from your brain.
Yeah.
So when that Greatest Hits record by Tom Petty came out, I swear to God, I wore that thing out coming off the bus, smoking a joint, getting, you know, I didn't eat before shows, I would eat after. Eating my food, listen to Tom, and go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, that was it. But you just, by that point, you were just so, you know, it's been a full day. You've done 18 interviews, and, you know, and you got another 800 miles down the road to go to the next day.
Yeah. So 18 interviews and 18 8x10s.
That's what got me through the Heartbreakers for 40 years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. You know, man, we've all done that. Get out of a gig or get out of a show and you listen to talk radio, or that, you know, listen to NPR, just that soothing voice on NPR.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're talking
about. Get you relaxed. I do binaural beats. You know what those are? When
you
put headphones on? Oh man. And immediately I just go, I'll fall asleep, you know?
Nice.
So I take 30 minutes of the day just for myself, put those on and take a little rest, and man, I'm good to go. And these young kids are going, God, he's old. That actually, if you do it I wish I would have done this when I was 20 years old, you know, or 18. Just take 30 minutes for yourself, either reading a book or reading a couple passages, and just relax for a minute. Man, it seems like I get more charged up. I can go for another 10 hours, you know, just by taking that one little step every day, you know.
You have to. You got to recharge, man.
Reading something positive, you know.
Yeah.
Instead of all this negativity we have going on in this damn country. Anyway, there goes politics again. Read something positive and relax your mind and your body real quick. See how that treats you, and you'll come up with a riff quicker than you can spit. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, totally.
There you go. Like you said, tell somebody you love them.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. Every day.
Yep.
Tell everybody you love them. I love you guys.
Love you too, man. And thank you for doing this, Rex. Very much.
Oh, I love it. Anytime. Y'all call me up.
So good to catch you. And like,
I want one of those heads, Dom.
Yeah.
We'll get you.
Dino, send it through. Make it so.
Make it so. Make it so. Number one. No, seriously, thank you for doing this. Everybody that comes on this show, they're like, we all, you know, when we see each other, it's at NAMM. And generally it's like, we've got 5 minutes to catch up, you know, a year passed.
You can, and for me, I can't hear, you know, so it's like kind of like, hey, how you doing? You kind of nodding, you know. Yeah,
So
this has really been cool. We're all bass geeks anyway, so it's fun talking bass shop. For me it is.
No, absolutely. Bass shop and songwriting.
I do it all the time with friends like Inez and and different buddies that play bass, and there's a camaraderie there. Back in the days, we'd be playing a club. You notice all the bass players at one table, the guitar players at another, and and the vocalists were out, where they're doing chicks and chicks. But it was all about gear, and it was all about this talk, and yeah, man, you can borrow my, I've got this if you need, it was always it's a brotherhood, and that's why these are cool. That's why these are cool.
Just come into the Ampeg booth on an AM show, and on a Saturday, and
Totally.
You mentioned Inez, like. You, Inez, Rudy, all, everybody's hanging out, and it's just, it's a family. That's why I say this is a family.
Totally.
We were joking about in the 50th with Channel 2, and we were just like, Channel 2 is for your buddy who plays bass is on the gig with you that night. Right. Goes in there instead. So now we're
stick your bass synthesizer through it, right?
Yeah.
Your Moog pedals or something, Speaking of
Inez, actually.
I've reached out to Mike earlier, and I gotta get on him because I want to get him on the show as well, so we can talk with him.
I see him every Monday. Not see him, I see him on a screen, but I'll tell him. Yeah. In fact, I need to call him. I'll call him after this. Go out for lunch and call him.
Cool.
All right, man.
Man, Rex, again,
Thank
love you, bro.
Guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And everybody watching, thanks for joining in. I think in 2 weeks, February 18th, 2 weeks from today, we'll have Tony Levin as a guest on the show too.
Oh, nice.
So check in. All right.
Very
cool,
nice.
guys.
Peace, love.
Later.
See you.
Peace, man.
Out.
Right back at you, man. Thank you.